Chapter 69-67. Did I hear wrongly? Yang Lingfeng's eyes widened. The technique to pass this level is so simple? He had been thinking about whether this level tested the demonic beast's intelligence or strength, and how it was judged. However, the reason Bailey Hongzhuang gave him was too blind. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. It's that simple. If you don't believe me, think carefully about the situation of the demonic beast that fell down just now. The siblings immediately thought about it seriously. After thinking about it, the two of them also realized that the situation seemed to be the case. Looking at the demonic beasts in front of them, the ones that were blown away were indeed the smaller ones. The lightning fox was directly blown down. The fox's body was also a little shaky, but it had been holding on. Is this test really that simple? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. With their intelligence, how difficult do you think the test will be? Yang Lingfeng. What you said makes sense. Yang Qinxue, Hongzhuang, you're still the best. I was thinking too much before. Sure enough, when facing these demonic beasts, they could only think in the simplest way to get close to their situation. Once they thought in a complicated way, it would be wrong. It's such a simple technique to pass the level, but these guys actually didn't realize it. It's really too stupid. Yang Lingfeng patted Yang Qinshua's shoulder and sighed. Get used to it. These guys' intelligence has always been like this. I'm more and more at ease with Beichen now. If he's really in the holy world, he shouldn't be in danger. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed in relief. From the design of this level, it could be seen that the demonic beasts in the holy world weren't that smart. After the three of them tied the refining materials to their bodies, passing the second level became very smooth. At the end of the second level, the three of them stopped and continued to observe the third level. The first level can't be too heavy, the second level can't be too light. I wonder what the third level is going to be? Yang Lingfeng straightened his expression and said in one go, I'll definitely be able to find out this level. Yang Qinxue didn't say anything, but she was also full of energy. Along the way they had relied on Hongzhuang to be their strategist. After being reminded so many times, if they still couldn't discover the third stage, then they would be too useless. As some of the demonic beasts were driven away, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised to find that among the remaining demonic beasts on the bridge, the number of demonic beasts on the south side of the river was obviously higher than the number of demonic beasts on the north side of the river. This discovery made her feel very strange. From the situation of the previous two trials, the passing rate of the demonic beasts on both sides of the river was almost the same. Only this third trial had such a difference. Why was this? Yang Lingfeng was racking his brain. He tried to think in the simplest possible direction, but he realized that he couldn't think of any possibility at all. To be honest, it wasn't easy to think about things from the perspective of these guys. I really can't figure out what the third stage is. What is it? Yang Lingfeng patted his own head. These blockheads always think in a tricky way. Chapter 69-68. How is that possible? Yang Lingfeng retorted without hesitation. Sister, isn't your thinking a little too weird? That seems to be the case. Yang Qinxue felt a little guilty. She just couldn't think of any other possibilities and just happened to think of this point, so she blurted it out. Now that Yang Lingfeng retorted like this, she regretted saying it out loud. After all, it was a little strange. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly chuckled. Qinxue is right? Yang Lingfeng was stunned. What do you mean? I mean this third round should be testing one's looks. Her ink-black beautiful eyes shone with a bright luster. She didn't understand at first, but later on she unconsciously thought of this point. Because the thoughts of these demon beasts were too simple. They had always been very concerned about being smart and looking good. According to the past, the demon beasts on both sides of the river should be about the same. However, the demon beasts on the south side of the river had a much higher probability of passing, and this was also due to the clothes. Damn, it can't be? Yang Lingfeng was dumbfounded. Such a weird reason could actually be used for the assessment. Can't this assessment be a little more serious? Look at the previous two stages. You should have already realized that this isn't a serious assessment. Yang Lingfeng face-bombed. Alright, you're right. White guy, do your best. Fox and the others had already reached the other side of the bridge and were waving at them. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly, and she looked at the two people beside her. Let's go too. Yang Lingfeng swaggered up. I'm still confident in my looks. At least I'm better looking than these demon beasts, right? That's not necessarily true. Demon beasts may have different aesthetic standards. If you fall, I'll laugh for the rest of my life. Yang Qinxue said sarcastically. Yang Lingfeng, you're my sister. It wasn't until the three of them successfully passed the immortal bridge that they breathed a sigh of relief. "White guy, you guys actually passed, that's great." Fox excitedly came to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. "I knew you were people with great luck. Maybe you'll be able to enter the Holy Realm like I did when I first came here. You really dare to dream. A fellow who hasn't even reached the elementary immortal stage wants to enter the Holy World? You're simply blaspheming the Holy World." The fierce cloud monkey looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two with disdain. It was sure that they had only relied on luck. It wasn't that this kind of thing hadn't happened before, but after facing the later stages, their true colors would be revealed. "You idiot, what do you know?" Fox looked at the fierce cloud monkey in disdain. "Take a good look. You guys from the north of the river bank left behind much less than us. If you ask me, you guys are the ones who are really making up the numbers." "What nonsense are you talking about?" The fierce cloud monkeys retorted as they subconsciously looked behind them. They were surprised to find that there were fewer of them. At a glance, most of the demonic beasts were dressed in red, and their numbers could be clearly seen at a glance. Chapter 69-69. This is really strange. Why is their survival rate so much higher than ours? The fierce cloud monkey was puzzled. In terms of combat power, they were stronger than the fox and the others. What was going on? Don't think about it now. This is only the first stage. No one knows the final result. The saber-toothed tiger swept away the haze in its heart. Ever since they set off, they had been suppressed by the fox and the others. If they didn't adjust their conditions soon, the situation would only get worse. The first stage is about appearance. I don't know what will be tested later. Yang Lingfeng looked at the mountain in front of him. He really felt that these monsters had strange thoughts. Usually he couldn't understand them. "I think this is pretty good." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "If it was about strength, we would have been eliminated long ago." "You're right." Yang Lingfeng nodded. "Then let's hope they can continue to maintain this standard." Looking at the towering mountain in front of them, Bailey Hongzhuang asked, "Is the Holy Realm on this mountain?" The fox shook its head. "We have to cross this mountain. After passing the test, we will have the chance to enter the Holy Gate. Don't underestimate this mountain. This is also a test. We have to follow the stream and move forward. There is a certain requirement for strength." The lion looked at the three of them and thought for a moment. Then it said, "Although your strength is a little weak, the difficulty of this stage isn't very high. As long as you work hard, there should be hope of success." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart also had a trace of understanding, and then continued to follow the three wicked beasts. A clear stream meandered down from the top of the mountain. It was like the water of the immortal realm. One by one, the monsters walked barefoot into the stream. Bailey Hongzhuang took off her shoes and walked into the stream with her hands holding the corner of her skirt. The cold touch of the stream instantly spread up. In that instant she felt as if she was cold from head to toe. She couldn't help but shiver. His feet followed the stream all the way up. The stream seemed to be getting colder and colder, and his feet unconsciously became numb. A faint power entered her body from the stream, and Bailey Hongzhuang found that her consciousness was becoming clearer and clearer, as if her mind had never been so clear before. There's a mysterious power in this stream. Yang Qinxue looked at the stream under her feet in amazement. The stream didn't look any different, but after entering she noticed the difference. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "This stream water has a purifying effect. Our elemental energy and mental energy are being purified." The reason why she felt that her mind was becoming clearer and clearer was because her spiritual power was also being purified. As an alchemist, she was very clear about the importance of mental energy. However, mental energy was different from origin energy. Even medicinal pills that had an effect on mental energy were extremely rare. Who would have thought that this seemingly ordinary stream would actually have such an effect? It was truly miraculous. My entire body is about to freeze. This process is too painful. Chapter 69-70. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head and looked at the path in front of her. She was surprised to find that the path was very long. It was not easy to walk through it. We have to hold on. It's not just to pass the level. It's also very beneficial for us. A trace of firmness appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's clear black and white eyes. Her hands clenched into fists, her feet already cold as she resolutely moved forward. Yang Lingfeng nodded slightly and stopped joking. He was also very clear that this kind of opportunity was very rare for cultivators. Even if they could not enter the Holy Realm, this baptism would be very helpful for their future. Their bodies gradually became numb, but their minds were unprecedentedly clear. Unknowingly, a thought gradually appeared in everyone's mind. Why do you cultivate? This thought kept appearing in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. All of her attention was fixed on this question. Why do you cultivate? To become stronger. To protect the people you care about. One after another, these thoughts appeared in her mind. These questions were like rhetorical questions knocking on her heart. Unknowingly, her heart became abnormally firm. Many of the distracting thoughts gradually dissipated in this process. Only the initial belief was left. Living in this world, there were too many complications and temptations. Many cultivators had unknowingly forgotten their original intentions. Once they lost their way, it would be very difficult to maintain their original pace. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes became brighter. After she understood everything, she only felt that the coldness in her feet seemed to have dissipated. Now, every step Yang Lingfeng took was very difficult. It seemed that he could collapse at any time. His mind was unprecedentedly clear. Why do I cultivate? The reason he wanted to break through the elementary celestial stage and enter the real immortal realm was to fulfill his father's wish. He was very clear that his father had been longing to enter the immortal realm for so many years. Unfortunately, due to the limitations of his cultivation, he could only stay in the chaotic immortal realm. Therefore, since he was young, his father had entrusted this wish to him. As for him, he had never thought about why he wanted to cultivate. He had always treated his father's wish as his goal. Yang Qingxue also fell into deep thought. The originally noisy group had unconsciously quietened down. Even the group of demonic beasts were completely immersed in their own emotions. It wasn't until Bailey Hongzhuang felt that her body had returned to normal and no longer felt the cold water under her feet that she suddenly woke up. When she looked ahead again, she suddenly realized that Fox and the others were already standing in front of her, looking at her with a smile. She turned to look at the stream she had just walked past. Only then did she notice that the stream was not as long as she had imagined. It was just a very simple stream. Yang Lingfeng and Yang Qingxue were still in the stream, but their speed was very slow. It could be described as the speed of a turtle. There was a trace of confusion on both of their faces, as if they were immersed in their own world. It was only at this moment that Bailey Hongzhuang realized that it was all an illusion. Chapter 69-71. White guy, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. The lion looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. This stage looked very simple, but it was not easy to pass it easily. Any demonic beast that couldn't figure it out would be trapped here for a long time. Some demonic beasts could still pass the stage after figuring it out, but if they spent too much time here, it meant that they failed to pass the stage. They thought that this stage would be very difficult for the white guy and the others, but they did not expect the white guy's speed to be not much slower than theirs. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled in the face of the three demonic beasts' astonished gazes. She had experienced a lot along the way, so this stage was not too difficult for her. I wonder if the green guy and the others can pass? The fox looked worriedly at the two people behind who were still immersed in their own world. There is a time limit here. If they can't pass the stage in the time limit, they will lose. Speaking of which, this stage is different from the previous ones. The difficulty has been reduced by a lot. The rock flapped its wings. In the past, I was in my favorite illusion, so I couldn't judge. Now you're just asking me what the purpose of cultivation is? Isn't this too simple? The fox nodded. Maybe we have a lot of fate with the holy world, so the stage is simple. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. What is the purpose of your cultivation? To survive. The three demonic beasts said in unison. If we are too weak, we won't be able to find a good cave and good fruit trees won't belong to us. For these, we have to work hard to improve our strength. Looking at the three demonic beasts' extremely sincere expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang finally believed that everything they said before was true. It turned out that this stage was only more difficult for them, but for these simple-minded demonic beasts, it was not difficult at all. Boss, if this guy is left alive, he will definitely be a disaster in the future. The blazing cloud monkey looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again. He wanted to see this guy get eliminated, but he did not expect this guy's performance to be so outstanding. On the other hand, the demonic beasts that had not broken through to the elementary celestial stage had a much worse performance. I'll find a chance to get rid of her when I challenge the stage later. The saber-toothed tiger narrowed its eyes, and a fierce look flashed across its eyes. It finally knew that since this guy appeared, these guys south of the river bank had become more and more arrogant. Although the other two fellows were of the same race as her, they were obviously not as smart as this fellow. Otherwise, they would not have been suppressed by them for so long. The next stage is indeed a good opportunity. The fierce cloud monkey's eyes lit up. The checkpoints ahead were all very gentle. If he rashly attacked, these fellows south of the river bank would definitely not sit by and watch. Right now, they were already at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. Once they started fighting, their situation would become even worse, so they could only make their moves secretly. There's not much time left. Will little Qing and the others make it in time? Rock was a little anxious. He looked like he couldn't wait to drag Green Guy and the others over. Let's wait a little longer. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at the two of them. She still had a glimmer of hope that they would be able to pass. Chapter 69-72. As time passed, the expressions of the surrounding demonic beasts gradually became serious. Although Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know how long this stage would take, she could roughly guess from the demonic beasts' expressions. They're getting closer and closer. The rock paid attention to Yang Qinxue and Yang Qinshue's footsteps. Although they were moving at an extremely slow pace, it was undeniable that they were still moving forward. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Soon. It's almost time. The lion was clearly not optimistic. If we don't figure it out soon, I'm afraid we won't make it in time. I really don't understand. Is this question so difficult to answer? The rock was puzzled. This kind of question wasn't a problem for it at all. Not all demonic beasts have the same brain circuitry as you. Xiao Hei's lips twitched. Sometimes, having a simple brain circuitry like theirs wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I knew that not all demonic beasts are as smart as me. You don't have to emphasize it. I know what I'm doing. Xiao Hei covered her face. Pretend I didn't say anything. The stream is gradually disappearing. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. She suddenly noticed that the stream was gradually disappearing from behind. Once the stream completely disappears and they still haven't made it out, it means that they've failed. The fox reminded. The demonic beasts behind them were gradually disappearing. It was obvious that they had been eliminated. Right at this moment, Yang Lingfeng finally opened his eyes and looked at everyone excitedly. Hey, I passed the stage very quickly, right? Looking at the man's expectant smile, the fox and the rest's lips twitched. They gave a perfunctory laugh. As long as you're happy. Yang Lingfeng pursed his lips. Do you have to be so perfunctory? Now only Qinxue is left. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on Yang Qinxue. She was only a short distance away from passing the stage. As long as she could see through it, she still had a chance. Why is old sis slower than me? Yang Lingfeng was a little surprised. He always thought that his old sis was incomparably firm on this point. He didn't expect her to see through it slower than him. Sis, hurry up. Yang Lingfeng looked at the speed at which the stream was disappearing. There was a hint of anxiousness in his voice. You can't shout here. Rock covered Yang Lingfeng's mouth. Bah. Yang Lingfeng brushed away the bird feathers at the corner of his mouth. Only by shouting can she realize the current situation. This is completely useless, okay? As soon as Rock finished speaking, he realized that Yang Qinxue had already crossed the stream and was in front of everyone. How is it? Yang Lingfeng raised his eyebrows. With me, your younger brother, calling out to you, won't you be faster? You can do that? Rock was confused. Phew, that was close. Yang Qinxue took a deep breath. I almost couldn't pass. Sis, you're too slow. Luckily, I shouted at the end. Yang Lingfeng looked proud. Why did you take so long to think about this question? I've never thought about this question carefully before. It's just that everyone is cultivating, so I'm cultivating as well. However, after thinking about it carefully this time, I completely understood. Chapter 69-73. Yang Qinshua's eyes lit up like never before. She had been stuck in the glorious sun stage for quite some time, but she was still far from the elementary immortal stage. After such a long time, she could not even touch the barrier, let alone break through. The elementary immortal stage seemed to be infinitely far away, like a vast and boundless sea. She did not know where the shore was. However, after the baptism just now, she suddenly felt that it was no longer an ocean but a lake. It was no longer so far away. Yang Lingfeng nodded seriously. Sister, I wouldn't have noticed if you didn't mention it. I realized that I've touched the barrier of the elementary immortal stage. Really? Yang Qinxue asked excitedly. Of course. Yang Lingfeng's lips could not help but curl upward. I've been unable to touch it for so many years. Now, I finally have hope of breaking through. Joy bloomed on their faces. Everything else aside, just this point alone made their trip here worth it. That's great. Bailey Hongzhuang was also happy for the two from the bottom of her heart. Let's go. We have to continue moving forward. The lion reminded them. Everyone came back to their senses and realized that the saber-toothed tiger and the rest had already taken the lead and headed up the mountain. Although I didn't expect you to waste so much time on this stage, It's great to have such a reward. The fox smiled. You have to break through the elementary immortal stage as soon as possible. That way the saber-toothed tiger can't keep using this as a joke. Don't worry. I'll definitely break through soon. Yang Lingfeng was full of confidence. Even the mention of the saber-toothed tiger could not ruin his good mood. The 3 people and 4 beasts continued up the mountain. There were originally quite a number of monsters, but after passing these 2 stages, only half of them were left. Fox, what's next? Yang Qingxue asked curiously. If she had been just a little slower, she would have failed. The next stage might be even more difficult, so she could not help but worry. After we cross this mountain, we'll see the gate to the Holy Realm. The fox pointed ahead. The mountain towered into the clouds and could not be flown. It would take some time to walk over. We can enter the Holy Realm directly? How to enter the gates of the Holy Realm is still a test. I'll explain it to you in detail when we get there, the fox said. Hearing this, the 3 of them nodded slightly. Obviously, only the gate of the Holy World was left. Once they succeeded, they would be able to enter the Saints' World. Mailmaster, I hope you're here. Xiao Hei prayed silently. It had been a long time since she last saw Xiao Bai and she missed her a little. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Xiao Hei, and a look of longing surfaced in her eyes. She had not seen Beichen for a long time. As everyone reached the halfway point of the mountain, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that the gravity on her body was getting heavier. With the physique of a cultivator, climbing over a mountain was not a problem at all. However, this mountain was clearly not an ordinary mountain. The higher one climbed, the greater the pressure. Oh my God, am I going to be crushed to death before I even get over this mountain? Yang Lingfeng had a bitter expression on his face, sweat constantly seeping out of his forehead. Chapter 69-74. It's just that I'm too lazy and lack exercise. The rock clicked its tongue and shook its head. This kind of pressure was nothing to them at all. They didn't expect this guy to be so tired. Yang Lingfeng was also speechless. He wasn't a demonic beast at all, alright? The human race's physical body couldn't be compared to the beast race's. In this aspect, the beast race had a natural advantage over the human race. But right now, he could only swallow the bitterness into his stomach. Look, that white fellow is your younger sister. She's stronger than you. What nonsense are you talking about? Yang Lingfeng turned his head to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. He suddenly realized that she wasn't as pale as he was. On the contrary, her face wasn't red and her heart wasn't beating fast. It was as if she wasn't affected in the slightest. How is this possible? Yang Lingfeng was dumbfounded. Don't you feel the pressure? The pressure here is indeed not small. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. It won't be easy for us to climb over this mountain. Why do you look so much more relaxed than me? Yang Lingfeng looked at her curiously. He could clearly see that Hongzhuang's current state wasn't a pretense. Probably because I train more than you. Yang Lingfeng. You're kidding me. The fox raised its eyebrows. I told you that white fellow trains more than you. You only know how to eat all day. You should learn from her. Yang Lingfeng was speechless. Alright, you're right. Hongzhuang, I didn't know that you know how to train your body. Yang Qingxue had long understood that the reason why Hongzhuang was able to do this was because of her body training. Cultivators of body training might not be able to see it on normal days, but at this time the difference was clearly reflected. Looking at Hongzhuang's elegant and refined appearance, she really didn't expect her to know how to train her body. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Body training helps to improve one's strength. That's why Beichen and I both trained. So that's how it is. I didn't expect that although the 2 of you are young, your comprehension of cultivation is not at all vague. You are actually much more powerful than us. She had once heard from her father that the path of body refinement was much more difficult than ordinary cultivation. A cultivator must have a very strong will to be able to endure such pain. In fact, most cultivators were unable to persevere. It was precisely because of this that his father had always admired body cultivators. She didn't expect that Hongzhuang, who looked so delicate, would suffer so much. Indeed, one couldn't judge a book by its cover. If you can climb over this mountain, I'm sure your physique will improve by quite a bit. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up. The current pressure did not affect her much, but when she reached the top, the pressure would not be small. Since she had come to the chaotic celestial realm, she hadn't had the chance to cultivate her body. She wondered if this mountain would help her. Yang Lingfeng gritted his teeth. No matter what, I will do my best to persevere. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, her steps firm as she moved forward. Little Black's situation was also relatively easy. As a demonic beast, his physical strength was also very strong. This kind of pressure was very easy for him. Chapter 69-75. The closer they got to the mountain, the greater the pressure. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly realized that they were not the only ones feeling the pressure. Even some of the weaker monsters were feeling the same pressure. The terrifying pressure was like a mountain pressing down on them. Every step they took was extremely difficult. Fox, did any of your demonic beasts get crushed to death when you passed this stage? Yang Lingfeng took another step with great difficulty. In the end, he could not help but ask the question in his heart. Judging by the pressure, he might be crushed into a pile of meat paste in the end. No. The fox shook its head. The saint's realm is not cruel. Even if we fail, we'll just go back. We won't lose our lives. Hearing this, Yang Lingfeng breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. At least we'll be able to keep our lives. Fox, how do you feel about the pressure? Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly asked. I feel a lot of pressure too. The fox looked distressed. The last time I came here, I hated climbing the most. Bailey Hongzhuang fell into deep thought. When she looked at the mountain again, there was a trace of amazement and admiration in her eyes. Hongzhuang, did you think of something? According to my judgment, at the later stage, the pressure we're under is actually different. What does that mean? Whether it's strength or physical strength, we're much weaker than the fox and the others. If even they feel the pressure is not small, then the pressure we're under must be very shocking. In history, no monster has ever lost their lives here. This means that the pressure we're under to climb this mountain is the limit of what we can bear. Do you understand? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes shone brightly. Although the training here was different from their usual training, the biggest advantage was that there was no danger to their lives. In their previous training, they could lose their lives if they were not careful. Since there was no such example here, they could only design it this way. Yang Lingfeng and the others were stunned. Then they quickly understood. So that's how it is. Hongzhuang, you're really smart. Yang Qingxue heaved a sigh of relief. She had been worried that she wouldn't be able to survive until the end. Fortunately, the outcome was much better than she had imagined. So, as long as we persevere and don't waver in our beliefs, the possibility of clearing the stage is still very high. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark and bright eyes sparkled with a dazzling luster. She also wanted to know where her limits were. Perhaps through this trial, she would be able to break through her limits and reach a whole new world. The foxes were still confused, but this did not affect their admiration. White has always been the smartest, haha. Yang Lingfeng and Yang Qingxue glanced at the three guys who were laughing. Could their blind worship of Hongzhuang be any more obvious? White snow drifted down, and the closer they got to the mountain peak, the more the ground was covered with frost. Looking at the snowy scene, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' eyes lit up. Normally it's like spring all year round. I didn't think that we'd only be able to see snow at the top of the mountain. Even though I'm half dead tired, I have to say the scenery is still very beautiful, haha. Chapter 69-76. Hang in there, we're about to reach the top of the mountain. The fox looked at Yang Qingxue and the others who were about to give up and said, when you reach the other side of the mountain, you'll find a completely different situation. Everything will be worth it. The lion nodded, that's right. Back then, I successfully broke through to the elementary celestial stage after crossing this mountain. Yang Lingfeng was clearly exhausted, but he could not help but laugh when he heard this. Don't lie to me. Do I look like a beast that lies? The lion looked serious. Maybe you'll be like me and break through after crossing this mountain? I hope so. Yang Lingfeng's voice trembled. The immense pressure made it impossible for him to stand steadily, and he could only crawl forward. The saber-toothed tiger looked disdainfully at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were about to faint and said mockingly, with such little strength, I think you'd better give up. Don't die here. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look. Although the saber-toothed tiger was walking very simply, it was very determined and showed no signs of collapsing. She had to admit that although this fellow was very annoying, it was still quite capable. Although the fox and the others were not bad, there was still a gap between them and the saber-toothed tiger. This was only a mountain, but everyone had already spread out. The strongest group of demonic beasts was undoubtedly at the forefront. The saber-toothed tiger was only one step away from crossing the mountain, and they would probably have to spend a little more time here. Saber-toothed tiger, don't be too proud. Wait until I break through to the elementary celestial stage. One day I'll defeat you. Yang Lingfeng said angrily. If one day he was stronger than the saber-toothed tiger, he would capture it and enslave it to do manual labor. He had already planned all kinds of scenarios. With just you? The saber-toothed tiger suddenly laughed. Maybe in your next life? Yang Lingfeng, who was already exhausted, was suddenly stimulated by this sentence. He stood up again and quickly took a few steps forward. I'll show you what I'm capable of. Looking at Yang Lingfeng, who suddenly looked like he was injected with chicken blood, Bailey Hongzhuang and Yang Qinshue's faces were filled with amazement. So, this fellow had not reached his limit at all. Wow, that's amazing. Fox also sped up and climbed to the top of the mountain. Only then did he pat Yang Lingfeng on the shoulder and said with a look of regret, I didn't expect that. I've always underestimated you. You still have some backbone. Standing at the top of the mountain, Yang Lingfeng didn't know what had happened. When he finally understood, he was dumbfounded. Oh my god, how did I get up here? Aren't I a little too powerful? Bailey Hongzhuang, Yang Qinshuo was speechless. He was only handsome for a second. Finally, everyone successfully reached the top of the mountain. The original pressure suddenly disappeared and was replaced by an indescribable sense of ease. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt that her body had become much lighter. This feeling was not only because of the sudden disappearance of the pressure, but also because something else seemed to have changed. However, for a moment she could not tell what exactly had changed. Chapter 69-77. At first, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not understand what the fox meant. However, after they walked on the path, they understood. Extremely rich and pure origin energy flowed into their bodies continuously. The origin energy that they had consumed during the climb was replenished in a short period of time. Their bodies, which were almost squeezed dry, greedily absorbed the origin energy in the air. In just a short period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang sensed that her cultivation base was increasing. I finally understand why you were able to make a breakthrough back then. Yang Lingfeng spread out his hands and absorbed the origin energy around him. This was what they meant by after suffering comes the sweetness. First he was squeezed to the extreme. Then he was replenished. He even felt that the barrier that he had just touched was showing signs of loosening. This was just too amazing. Haha, you can try. Yang Lingfeng shook his head. Although my strength has increased by a lot, there's still a long way to go before I can make a breakthrough. I don't know how much time it would take to make such a huge improvement on a normal day. Right now, he only felt that this experience was really worth it. If he had stayed in the chaotic immortal realm for a year, he would have spent a lot of time just touching the barrier, let alone making a breakthrough. This place is completely a world of cultivation. Yang Qinshuo could not help but sigh. She never knew that there was a place that was so suitable for cultivation. No wonder the demonic beasts here were so powerful. Not to mention the fruits and food they usually ate. Even if they only came here once every 300 years, it would be impossible for their strength not to improve. On the other hand, in the chaotic immortal realm, they had to spend a lot of effort just to get some cultivation resources. Yeah, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Maybe there are many other mystic realms that are just as amazing. Hongzhuang, when you see Beichen, you have to help me persuade him. Yang Lingfeng suddenly looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a pleading look. No matter what, he has to stay here for a while. It's best if he can wait until I make a breakthrough to the elementary immortal realm. Even if he is enslaved by the demonic beasts in the holy world, he has to endure it. After all, there's no way to improve his strength, right? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Yang Lingfeng. Can't you think better of Beichen? This is the worst-case scenario, isn't it? We have to be mentally prepared. No matter what we see later, we shouldn't be too surprised. Otherwise, Beichen would feel awkward when he sees us. That's what my sister and I thought at that time. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a sneer. Then you can wait and see. On the way down the mountain, everyone walked very slowly because they were reluctant to leave the heaven and earth elemental energy that was floating in the air. Unfortunately, they could only stay here for one night. The next day, everything would disappear into nothingness. When they reached the foot of the mountain, Bailey Hongzhuang finally saw the long-awaited Holy World Gate. In their line of sight, a huge green city wall ran through the entire ground. As far as the eye could see, they could not determine how long the city wall was. The green city walls were covered with green plants, and there were also unknown charming flowers blooming on them. It was like a forest paradise. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Sure enough, the city walls fit the characteristics of this place. At first glance, it made one's eyes light up. Chapter 69-78. At the foot of this magnificent city wall, there were 3 large doors. The door in the middle was dazzling gold, and on its left and right were 2 red and green doors respectively. Compared to the door in the middle, the other 2 doors were clearly smaller. Why are there 3 doors here? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. These 3 doors represent different tests. Normally, everyone would go through the 2 doors on the side. As for the door in the middle, it seems that only those chosen by the Saints' World can enter it. Those chosen by the Saints' World? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Said so. But until now, I haven't seen anyone chosen by the Saints' World. The fox spread out its 2 paws. I haven't seen this door open either. Maybe the monsters of the Saints' World will enter through here. Many demonic beasts are hoping to enter through this golden door, but it's just wishful thinking. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at the dazzling golden door with some curiosity in her eyes. She didn't take it to heart and turned to look at the 2 doors on the side. Do these 2 doors mean different tests? Which door are you going to choose? That's right. The fox nodded. The 2 doors represent different tests every time. The monsters of the Saints' World will come out very soon. They will tell us when the time comes. So, we'll be able to see the monsters of the Saints' World very soon? Yang Lingfeng immediately became interested. They had heard about the various powerful monsters of the Saints' World since a year ago. He wanted to see if the monsters of the Saints' World had 3 heads and 6 arms to make these monsters worship them so much. Isn't that right? The Rock was also very excited. Let's stand in front. Who knows, maybe the monsters of the Saints' World will give us some hints. There's such a benefit? Then we have to go forward. Yang Lingfeng smoothed out his slightly wrinkled clothes, and a bright smile appeared on his face, making him look like a handsome tree in the wind. After the saber-toothed tiger noticed their actions, it immediately gave the fierce cloud monkey a look. A group of monsters immediately stood in front of Yang Lingfeng, preventing them from taking half a step forward. What's going on? Yang Lingfeng frowned. Saber-toothed tiger, don't use such underhanded methods. That's too much of a disgrace. I'm doing this for your own good. You're just a few Radiant Sun experts, yet you still want to steal the limelight at a time like this. Don't let the demonic beasts of the Saints' World think that you've cheated when they see you, or they might think that we've regressed instead of making any progress in the past 300 years. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the monstrous beasts quickly changed. Not only the monstrous beasts to the north of the river bank, but even the monstrous beasts to the south of the river bank could not ignore these words. Once the demonic beasts of the holy world had a bad impression of them, they would be the ones to be affected. This guy. Yang Lingfeng's face was filled with anger. This saber-toothed tiger was simply trying to stir up trouble. It was even trying to make them hate it. Lingfeng. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. The saber-toothed tiger's words were not without reason. If they refuted it now, it would only leave a bad impression on everyone. Chapter 69-79. Boss, you're the best, Blazing Cloud Monkey said with admiration. You shut them up with just a few sentences. The saber-toothed tiger raised its eyebrows proudly. The sinister look in its eyes didn't change. These guys are still too inexperienced. No matter what, their strength is their weakness. No matter which test they choose later, we have to find a way to deal with them. Do you understand? Blazing Cloud Monkey quickly nodded. Boss, don't worry. I've already talked to them. Our brothers have also made arrangements. That's good. The saber-toothed tiger smiled with satisfaction. As long as these 3 guys disappeared, its days would be much more peaceful. Not long after, the demonic beasts of the holy world slowly walked out of the door. However, the door they walked through was not the one in the middle. As soon as the demonic beast walked out, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed. She could clearly feel the terrifying aura of this demonic beast. It was indeed much stronger than the fox and the rest. Most importantly, it wasn't just one demonic beast that was so powerful. The other demonic beasts behind it were also emitting a powerful and shocking aura. My goodness, now I believe that the demonic beasts of the holy world are really strong. Yang Lingfeng looked in front of him in amazement. He had never felt such a powerful aura in the chaotic immortal domain. With just a glance, he could already feel the huge gap between the two. If the demonic beasts of the holy world were all so powerful, then it would be really terrifying. No wonder the fox and the rest want to stay in the holy world. Yang Qinxue couldn't help but sigh. She was really curious about what kind of place the holy world was. It could actually cultivate such powerful demonic beasts. A wind-riding horse elephant walked out. It looked at the demonic beasts in front of it and said in a loud voice, as usual, the left and right doors represent different tests. The green door is slightly less difficult, but the chances of obtaining a Holy Spirit fruit are lower. The red door is slightly more difficult, but the chances of obtaining a Holy Spirit fruit are higher. Hearing this concise introduction, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were very impressed. This introduction was really simple. They thought that there would be some complicated introduction or at least an opening speech. In the end, it was neat and tidy. However, this was quite in line with the demonic beast style. Now you can start choosing. The wind-riding horse elephant looked lazy. It was as if it wasn't interested in everything in front of it at all. In an instant, the demonic beasts burst into a series of discussions. White guy, you're weaker. I think you should choose the green door. The fox said with concern. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She also had the same plan in her heart. Their cultivation was their shortcoming. Although the previous tests didn't have much to do with their cultivation, it still had a certain effect. She didn't care if she could enter the holy world. She cared if she could enter the holy world. What about you? Good luck. Chapter 6980. You've always been very smart, I believe you'll definitely have a way. The fox praised Bailey Hongzhuang seriously for once, then lowered his voice and said, after going in, you have to be careful of those guys, I'm afraid they'll take the opportunity to harm you. Bailey Hongzhuang subconsciously glanced at the saber-toothed tiger and said, don't worry, I understand. She had already noticed that there was something wrong with the saber-toothed tiger's eyes. It was impossible for this guy to not make any moves, he must have made a certain amount of preparations. However, right now they could only take one step at a time. I've already greeted the other demonic beasts, when we go in they'll also help take care of you. If the saber-toothed tiger and those guys are really that shameless, you don't have to be polite. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the fox in astonishment. You've even thought of this for me? Don't be too touched. The fox chuckled. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. Thank you. She was actually a little worried about their situation. After all, the difference in strength was there, but she couldn't affect the fox's choice because of them. Now that the fox had helped her and the other demonic beasts, their situation was undoubtedly much better. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's touched look, the fox couldn't help but feel a little guilty. It didn't know if the white guy knew that it was because it promised to make a new set of clothes for everyone, and everyone promised to help. Would he be angry? He shouldn't. The fox muttered to itself. It had no choice, these guys had taken a fancy to its new clothes recently, saying that the design was better. After putting forward this condition, it had no other choice. The most important thing now was the safety of the white guy and the rest. After the two teams had separated, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that the saber-toothed tiger was in the red door's team, but the fierce cloud monkey was in the same team as them. Obviously this guy was the one who wanted to make a move. Qinshue Lingfeng, we have to be careful in a while. Bailey Hongzhuang lowered her voice and reminded them. Young Lingfeng looked at the guy in front of him, and his heart couldn't help but beat like a drum. Hongzhuang, have you prepared the poison? Can't you have a little backbone? Yang Qinshue looked at Yang Lingfeng in disdain, then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. This poison of yours, can it poison a guy in the elementary immortal stage? Yang Lingfeng, sister, you still have the nerve to talk to me, you're even more shameless. Yang Qinshue, I promised father that I would take good care of you. Yang Lingfeng said, how can you say such nonsense, Bailey Hongzhuang? As the golden gate, the golden gate, the golden gates, the golden gates, the golden gate, the golden gate, the golden gate, the golden gate, the golden gate. Of the to the cloud to the end to the to look, to the sake it Hongzhuang to the. Now that he had come closer he could clearly sense the sacred aura. As expected of the saints' world, it was just different. Chapter 6981. Because he had to constantly pay attention to the movements of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, the fierce cloud monkey was very close to them. Seeing their actions, the fierce cloud monkey felt that it was very funny. Even they didn't dare to think about the golden door. These fellows who hadn't even broken through the elementary immortal realm were still standing in front of the door. Wasn't it funny? We're just looking. Why do you care? Yang Lingfeng narrowed his eyes. He was already unhappy with the fierce cloud monkey. This lackey had more ideas than the saber-toothed tiger. I'm just reminding you to not embarrass yourselves. After all, you're here to represent the face of the southern demonic beasts. That's right. Why don't you take a look at yourself? How dare you have such extravagant hopes? Some demonic beasts are like newborn calves that aren't afraid of tigers. They don't have any experience and think that they're really capable. They don't know how laughable they are. Mocking voices suddenly sounded. The demonic beasts on the north side of the river looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others with unfriendly gazes. Fierce cloud monkey, don't jump around too happily. The fox was also angry. This fellow was getting more and more arrogant. The fierce cloud monkey looked at the fox in disdain. Now that the teams have been divided, don't jump around. I'm warning you. Don't use any sinister methods. Otherwise, I'll take your life. The fox jumped up in excitement. It had already guessed that this fellow didn't have any good intentions, but it didn't expect this fellow to be so evil. He didn't even try to hide anything on the surface. Then you can try. The fierce cloud monkey shrugged his shoulders. He didn't care at all. The conflict between the demonic beasts on both sides of the river wasn't just a day or two. Even if they really fought, they weren't afraid. What's going on? Such a big movement also attracted the attention of the demonic beasts in the sacred world. The imperial wind horse elephant immediately walked over. The cold voice was mixed with a terrifying aura. It made the demonic beasts on the scene immediately quiet down. They didn't dare to speak anymore. They were afraid that it would cause any demonic beasts in the sacred world to be dissatisfied. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the imperial wind horse elephant in front of her and couldn't help but think of Xiao Hua. Little Blossom and Little Xuanzi had been training together for a while now. He wondered how they were doing now. Back then, Xiao Xuanzi had been pestering Little Flower. However, after that incident, Xiao Xuanzi became a lot more reserved. He didn't like to joke as much as before. Instead, Little Flower became the one who took the initiative. Now, I wonder if the two of them are together. The moment the imperial wind horse elephant appeared, its gaze landed on the fierce cloud monkey. With a gloomy expression, it asked, "What happened?" Facing that cold gaze, blazing cloud monkey could not help but shiver in his heart. He was also a little flustered. He quickly stood up and said, "Senior, it's all because this fellow from the ape clan said that she wanted to enter through this golden door. We were just reminding her not to dream." Seeing that fierce cloud monkey directly pushed all the blame to Bailey Hongzhuang, Yang Lingfeng secretly cursed. This guy was really despicable. That's not the case at all, Yang Lingfeng said. The imperial wind horse elephant's gaze also landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. He squinted his eyes and asked, "You want to enter this golden door?" Chapter 6982. The fox quickly stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, its face filled with worry. They are still young and this is their first time here. There are many things that they don't know. I hope that you guys can forgive them. That's right, they are still children. The lion also anxiously stood out. They were originally worried that they would encounter problems after the test started, but they didn't think that they would get into such a big mess before even entering the door. The rock also hurriedly ran out. It didn't know what to say, so it just stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. If something really happens later, you guys just run, understand? Seeing the three demonic beasts protecting them like this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were filled with gratitude. To be able to stand up for them at this time, it could be seen how sincere they were. I'm a little regretful that I mocked their intelligence before. Yang Lingfeng's gaze was complicated, but there was still a trace of gratitude. How could the saber-toothed tiger let go of such a good opportunity? It said almost immediately, "They have been thinking about this golden door since the beginning, as if only they can enter this door. These fellows from the south of the river are becoming more and more arrogant. They don't even put the dignity of the sacred world in their eyes. Saber-toothed tiger, don't slander us, this whole thing was caused by you." The fox was completely enraged, the spirit energy in its body quickly exploded, it couldn't take it any longer. If the white fellow and the rest were to be in danger because of this matter, even if it had to risk its life, it would still kill the saber-toothed tiger here today. This whole thing was caused by them. Fox, don't think that you are so great just because you are acting like this. When it comes to fighting, I really am not afraid of you. The saber-toothed tiger also exploded with spirit energy, its face was filled with arrogance. It even had a trace of excitement as it was about to make a move. Coming here today, they had already fallen into a disadvantageous position. It had always wanted to find a chance to turn the tables around. If it beat the fox down in front of so many demonic beasts, then who would doubt it in the future? Where do you think this place is? Do you think you can make a move just because you want to? The imperial wind horse elephant's solemn voice rang out. The saber-toothed tiger and fox felt a chill in their hearts as they hurriedly retracted their auras. Senior, this matter really isn't. Fox still didn't give up on explaining. I think we should control this matter properly. If we don't show them the might and power of the Saints' world, who knows what ideas they might have in the future, said the saber-toothed tiger. The imperial wind horse elephant's gaze once again landed on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. You want to enter this golden door? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the imperial wind horse elephant with a complicated expression. She did not expect that the fierce cloud monkey's provocation would cause the situation to develop to such a stage. If she did not try her best to solve all of this, perhaps even the fox and the others would be implicated. Why can't I think about it? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of all the demonic beasts present changed. This guy's guts were a bit too big. He actually dared to say something like that before the demonic beasts of the saints' world. That was extremely disrespectful. Once he angered them, he really would lose his life here. Chapter 6983. At this moment, the few demonic beasts behind the imperial wind horse elephant looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with unfriendly gazes. What kind of joke was this? Only demonic beasts with noble status had the right to enter this golden door. The demonic beasts on both sides of the river knew that this door was not something they could covet. However, this fellow who had not even reached the Radiant Sun realm actually had the guts to say this? Wasn't she a little too daring? This fellow really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I think we should just teach her a lesson. She looks very young. I'm afraid she's from a branch of the ape race? But I haven't seen her before. After the saber-toothed tiger heard the conversation between the demonic beasts in the sacred world, the pride in his eyes became even stronger. This was great. They didn't even need to do anything. The demonic beasts in the sacred world could deal with these fellows on their own. Imperial Wind. A long-armed ape quickly ran out from the door of the sacred world. Seeing the situation in front of him, he became even more anxious. Seeing the long-armed ape appear, Yang Lingfeng's heart couldn't help but thump. Ever since he met Tai Shi, who was always looking for trouble, he didn't have a good impression of the long-armed ape. Fortunately, he didn't see that fellow again. Now that such a fellow had appeared in the sacred world, he felt that things were not good. The imperial wind horse elephant heard the call from behind, but he didn't even turn his head back. He only continued, "If you want to enter, then enter." The entire place was silent. When the demonic beasts heard this news, they couldn't help but be dumbfounded. For a moment they even suspected that they had heard wrongly. Not to mention the other demonic beasts, even Bailey Hongzhuang was at a loss for a moment. What did she just hear? Lion, did I hear wrongly? The fox turned his head to look at the lion. Tell me, did you hear anything just now? The lion's expression was a little stiff. I did hear it, but I didn't dare to say it. Such a coincidence? The fox raised his eyebrows. If that's the case, then we might have heard the same thing. The long-armed ape was worried that the imperial wind horse elephant would attack Bailey Hongzhuang. What kind of joke was this? She was his grandaunt, okay? If they really made a move, then it would be over. After hearing the imperial wind horse elephant's words, it heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, thank goodness. The imperial wind horse elephant glanced at the gibbon. Why are you in such a hurry? I'm just worried that you'll do something stupid. The long-armed ape was speechless. This is our great aunt. If you offend her, I won't be able to save you. Do you think everyone is as stupid as you? The imperial wind horse elephant had a look of disdain. This is our boss's order, I can tell at a glance. It's good that you know. Chapter 6984. The saber-toothed tiger was completely dumbfounded. Just what was going on? Why did it suddenly become like this? The fierce cloud monkey's expression wasn't any better. He only felt that the imperial wind horse elephant couldn't have been cursed, right? Why was it so protective of these guys? It was simply inconceivable. It's not like that. I've always been full of respect for the sacred world and felt that their way of doing things was too belittling. The saber-toothed tiger explained. You don't have to say any more. You've lived for so many years and yet you're targeting the younger generation. It's obvious that your tolerance is lacking. The long-armed ape shook his head. I remember that you're the leader of those guys in the north of the river, right? Hearing this, the saber-toothed tiger's heart suddenly had a bad premonition. What's wrong? You guys are too weak. Even this kind of guy can be your leader. Do you guys have any ability at all? The long-armed ape looked at the surrounding demonic beasts with dissatisfaction. I think this guy can't do it. Tell him not to be the leader. Hearing this, the saber-toothed tiger's face turned as white as paper. It subconsciously wanted to refute, but after noticing the long-armed ape's cold gaze, it could only silently shut its mouth. Not to mention that it wasn't a match for the long-armed ape. If it offended the sacred world, it would be the unlucky one. At that time, not to mention not being able to have its current position, it might not even have a place to stay. Yang Lingfeng looked at the pale saber-toothed tiger and then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, just what did you do to the demonic beasts in the sacred world? Just a moment ago they were facing a disaster. How did the situation change in the blink of an eye? White guy, did you know this imperial windhorse elephant before? The fox lowered its voice and asked. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Her eyes were filled with doubt. I've never seen it before, that's really strange. The fox was dumbfounded. I've also seen this imperial windhorse elephant before. It's not such a good-tempered guy. Today its attitude completely changed. That's because the white guy and the rest are good-looking, so the imperial windhorse elephant's attitude changed. Rock said with a face of righteousness. Hearing this, the fox's expression immediately changed, looking as if he had suddenly realized something. So that's the case. I was wondering how this guy could become so good for no reason. He must have set his eyes on Baiji's beauty. Ah, that won't do. Bai is going to marry me. Lion, who was still in a daze, became serious after hearing this. That won't do. Then what should we do? Rock said with a sad face. We can't beat it at all, Bailey Hongzhuang. Aren't you guys thinking too much? How could this be? Fox had a serious look on his face. Ask Qing and the others if they can find any other reasons other than this one. Bailey Hongzhuang subconsciously looked at Yang Qingxue and Yang Qingxue, only to see them looking at each other. After thinking for a moment, they realized that apart from this seemingly unreliable reason, they really couldn't think of any other reason. Is that really the case? Yang Lingfeng thought, actually this is pretty good. Wouldn't our chances of getting the Holy Spirit fruit be higher? Yang Qingxue, Lingfeng. Chapter 6985. Master, could it be that beauty is so destructive? Xiaohei was also astonished. She was looking forward to her appearance when she grew up. At this moment she finally understood why Xiao Xuanzi found it so hard to accept her appearance when she transformed into her human form. It turned out that appearance had such a huge effect. You think too much. Bailey Hongzhuang was speechless. Although she was sure that she had never seen the imperial windhorse elephant before, she was also sure that the change in their attitude had nothing to do with her appearance. There must be some other reason. It was just that they had not thought of it yet. Could it be because of Beichen? A thought appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. If Beichen was really in the sacred world and had built a good relationship with these demonic beasts, then the change in their attitude towards her could be because of Beichen. But, was it really like that? She was not sure. You are from the human race, right? The imperial windhorse elephant looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again and asked. Hey, why are you suddenly asking this? The long-armed devil ape looked at the imperial windhorse elephant in confusion. He did not know why this fellow would ask such a ridiculous question. I feel that the difference between the human race and the ape race is not that big. These fellows are all wearing clothes. How can we be sure if they are the people we are looking for? If they are not, then wouldn't we be a joke? The imperial windhorse elephant said quietly. There was a trace of uncertainty in its eyes. Hearing this, the long-armed devil ape was also stunned. Before they came out, they only heard from their boss that they found a human that was similar to the ape race and that they were wearing clothes. The demonic beasts usually did not wear clothes. So it was too easy for them to differentiate. Who would have thought that these fellows were all wearing clothes? It was completely different from the scene they saw 300 years ago. You're right. It is better to be sure. The long-armed devil ape nodded. If we make a mistake and make our boss unhappy, then it would be bad. But I think this fellow in front of us is very good looking. She looks more like our boss's wife. Your eyesight is not very good. The imperial windhorse elephant said with disdain. Long-armed demon ape. Alright, what you said makes sense. However, when the surrounding demonic beasts heard the imperial windhorse elephant's question, their expressions became extremely strange. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were also stunned. Faced with this question, they did not know how to answer for a moment. What should we do? Yang Lingfeng hesitated. Should we admit it or not? Could it be that Beichen is in the saints' world so they know we're humans? If we don't admit it and they think we aren't, they might not let us in. But if we admit it and things aren't like that, wouldn't we be doomed? Yang Qingxue was completely at a loss now. How should she answer this question? If he answered incorrectly, he would be done for. Most importantly, they had already told all the demonic beasts that they were not humans but apes. Once they admitted that they were humans in front of these fellows, wouldn't they kill them? Bailey Hongzhuang quickly calmed down. She looked at him and had a lot of thoughts in her mind. Chapter 6986. When the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant saw Bailey Hongzhuang, they remained silent. The eagerness in their eyes gradually dimmed. Perhaps they had misunderstood the rules. Although she was good-looking, she might not be the person they were looking for. Master, what do we do now? Xiao He also realized that the situation was not right. If this continued, they would be finished. Bailey Hongzhuang kept looking at the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant's expression. She thought about the situation in her head, and when she finally noticed the disappointment on the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant's face, she had an idea. That's right, we are humans? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded in acknowledgement. Yang Qingxue and Yang Lingfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. They did not know how she decided to say this. They also did not know what kind of expression the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant would have after hearing this. Peng peng peng. The atmosphere became tense in an instant. They could even hear their own heartbeats. However, when the saber-toothed tiger and the other monsters heard that they were humans, they were completely dumbfounded. What's going on? Aren't they from the ape race? Could it be that everything they said before was a lie? We fell for it? Could they be lying to the monsters of the holy world to get on their good side? Another demonic beast raised its doubts. After all, no one knew what the monsters of the holy world were thinking when they suddenly asked such a question. Perhaps their attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang had changed because they thought that she was from the human race. Therefore, they took advantage of the situation. Fox, do you know the exact situation? The monsters to the south of the river could not help but ask. They were also very confused about this point. The fox, lion, and rock did not say anything. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a hint of thought. They did not have any doubts. Instead, they were even more worried. They felt that this white guy was very likely using an unconventional method. In any case, it was quite difficult to stand out in front of the demon beasts of the Holy Realm according to normal methods. However, using this method might really be able to make them treat him differently. The Imperial Wind Horse Elephant and the gibbon almost thought that they had made a mistake. However, when they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's confirmation, they were stunned. Are you really humans? Noticing the changes in the two demonic beasts' expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang's tone became more certain. That's right, we are humans. For a moment, all the demonic beasts' gazes were focused on the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant. They didn't know if this answer satisfied it or not. The Imperial Wind Horse Elephant paused for a moment and then revealed a joyful smile. That's good. Since you're from the human race, you can enter through this door. Chapter 6987. What she said isn't true. She's clearly from the ape clan. This is something that we all know. When the saber-toothed tiger saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were getting closer and closer to the golden door, it instantly grew anxious. That was the place that it had dreamt of entering for so many years. How could these weak fellows be one step ahead of it? After destroying everything it had, they actually wanted to receive such high treatment. That was absolutely impossible. Hearing this, the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant paused in its steps and turned its head. Why should I believe you? I have a demonic beast as my witness. The saber-toothed tiger solemnly swore and turned to look at the demonic beasts north of the river. Am I speaking the truth? Although the saber-toothed tiger had been stripped of its status as the leader, when it said this, many demonic beasts still nodded in agreement. That's right, they're from the ape clan. They're not humans at all. I knew that this fellow wouldn't let us off so easily. Yang Lingfeng's face darkened and immediately threw a tantrum. You've had a grudge with us for a long time. You're purposely taking advantage of this time to slander us. We're humans to begin with. Haven't you noticed that we're different from the ape clan? Look carefully. Regarding the introduction of the human race, which part of us doesn't match? Are you really that smart? Do you have clothes? These clothes were all made by us. Hearing Yang Lingfeng's rebuttal, the saber-toothed tiger almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. It did not forget that a year ago these fellows had used these things to refute it one by one. It never thought that they would turn hostile today and refute everything. What else could he say if they had already said all that he wanted to say? That wasn't what you said a year ago. Humph, I'm talking about the present. Don't mention those old and rotten things to me. At the same time, Yang Lingfeng madly shot a look at the fox and the rest. Seeing this, the three demonic beasts immediately understood and immediately echoed. That's right, they're humans. Smart demonic beasts can tell at a glance. Aren't you just jealous that they can walk through the golden door and purposely said this? The saber-toothed tiger was rendered speechless. It was so aggrieved that it was about to go crazy. "Senior, please don't believe their words. It's just relying on its age to bully them," the fox said in all seriousness. "It's just taking advantage of the fact that it's no match for a few juniors." Xiao Hei secretly clapped her hands. This fox's ability to lie through his teeth was truly something that he had inherited. "Everyone tell me, am I right?" The fox looked at the surrounding demonic beasts and asked. The demonic beasts to the south of the river were all in a daze. When they heard the fox taking the lead, they could only agree numbly. After all, the white guy had been treating them well for the past year, and they were on the same side. If they encouraged the arrogance of those guys north of the river bank at this time, wouldn't they be in trouble in the future? Seeing this, the long-armed demon ape directly said, "I know. It's you who has been obstructing me time and time again. What are your intentions? Since you're so dissatisfied, then you should go in and challenge the trial. After you come out, we'll see who's right and who's wrong." Chapter 6988. Seeing the saber-toothed tiger being kicked in by the long-armed devil ape, all the demonic beasts were dumbfounded. The saber-toothed tiger was one of the stronger ones among them, but in front of the demonic beasts of the Holy Realm, it was nothing. "You can go through this door now." The Imperial Wind Horse Elephant smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the fox who was giving her a look, then looked at the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant and nodded, "Okay." Until now, she still didn't know what the golden door was for. But in the current situation, there was no room for her to consider. If she raised her doubts, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. But from the demonic beast's reaction, the golden door shouldn't be dangerous. She would only know after she walked in. As Bailey Hongzhuang walked towards the golden door, Yang Lingfeng and Yang Qinxue followed closely behind. But before they could take a few steps, they were stopped by the long-armed devil ape and the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant. "What are you two doing?" Yang Lingfeng was stunned. We're going in together." "We said she's going in. Who said you can go in too?" The long-armed devil ape looked at the two suspiciously. "Didn't you say that humans can go in?" Yang Lingfeng pointed at Bailey Hongzhuang, then pointed at himself. "We're from the same race." Facing the long-armed devil ape and the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant's suspicious gaze, Yang Lingfeng couldn't help but feel weak. "Although I'm a little ugly," Yang Qinxue, who was originally very nervous, almost laughed out loud when she heard this. It was rare for this fella to be so honest. "That won't do." The long-armed devil ape rejected without hesitation. It only came out to receive its boss's wife because of its boss's orders. What would happen if it brought other fellows in as well? Furthermore, its boss didn't even mention that there were other humans in the first place. After seeing this scene, the fox and the others were even more certain that their judgment wasn't wrong. These two fellows must have taken a fancy to the white guy's beauty and didn't mistake them for humans. Otherwise they wouldn't have let the white guy in alone. "White fellow, are you going in like this? Isn't this like a lamb entering a tiger's den?" Lion couldn't help but worry. "No, I think we shouldn't let that white guy go in. It's too dangerous." Seeing that the lion was about to run out, the fox quickly stopped it. "You're crazy. Even if we show up now, we won't be able to stop them. In the outside world their strength was not bad, but in here their strength was not enough. The Imperial Wind Horse Elephant was slightly stronger than them. If they worked together they might have a chance. However, there was not only one demonic beast from the sacred world here. Moreover, once they did that, it would be equivalent to becoming complete enemies with the Saints' world. Only then did Lion calm down. However, he could not help but feel depressed. All he could do was pray silently. Bailey Hongzhuang also felt a little strange and couldn't help but ask, "Can't they go in with me?" Hearing this, the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant and the long-armed demon ape looked at each other with a confused expression. Silence. The two of them fell into silence. Chapter 6989. This fellow is really pushing her luck. Where does she think she is? It's already good enough that she can enter. She actually wants to bring the other demonic beasts in with her. She must be dreaming. Let's wait for a good show. The demonic beasts of the holy world will definitely teach her a lesson. The Imperial Wind Horse Elephant hesitated for a moment before asking, "You want them to go in together?" Huangdang. Some of the demonic beasts immediately fell to the ground. "Are you kidding me?" The Imperial Wind Horse Elephant was so violent to them, but it was so gentle to this fellow. What was going on? This wasn't playing by the rules at all. Bailey Hongzhuang was also stunned. Even she felt flattered by the Imperial Windhorse Elephant's actions. From the moment this fellow appeared until now, everything was too strange. As she thought about it, Bailey Hongzhuang probed, "And I want to bring them in together. What should we do now?" Boss didn't say anything about this. The Imperial Windhorse Elephant looked at the long-armed devil ape and transmitted his voice. The long-armed devil ape was also very conflicted. "I feel that although Boss didn't say anything about this, we should still listen to sister-in-law. This is our first time meeting sister-in-law. How can we not agree to such a small request? What if Boss isn't happy? What should we do?" The Imperial Windhorse Elephant nodded seriously. "That's right. You're right. Then let's do it this way? Let's do it this way." After making the decision, the Imperial Windhorse Elephant replied, "All right, then all of you can go in together. Can't you guys have a bottom line?" At this moment, the image of the Imperial Windhorse Elephant in the hearts of the demonic beasts collapsed. The Imperial Windhorse Elephant that had always stood by its word without the slightest bit of leeway was now completely obedient to Bailey Hongzhuang. "It's over, it's all over. It's already like this." The rock stomped its feet. Everything else aside, this Imperial Windhorse Elephant looked really cool. It was a formidable opponent. "All right, you guys can go in." The Imperial Windhorse Elephant waved its hand at the two of them. Yang Lingfeng, Yang Qingxue. The golden door opened and Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two walked in. "Now I finally know the difference between people. Could it be that looks really have such a big impact?" Yang Lingfeng turned to look at Yang Qingxue and frowned. "You just found out? I have known the importance of this for a long time. Ask yourself, when you first met Hongzhuang, did you not have any thoughts about her?" Yang Lingfeng chuckled and scratched his head. "At first I did have such thoughts, but after meeting Beichen I gave up on the idea." "Xiaohei, why?" Yang Lingfeng, "I can't compare to her in terms of looks." Bailey Hongzhuang, "Your words are really getting more and more off track. In the end, what are you talking about?" "I think you should think about your current situation." Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly glanced at the two people who were still struggling with this question. Now was not the time to think about these questions, okay? Only then did Yang Qingxue come back to her senses and she said, "I wonder if this golden door represents the strongest test." Chapter 69-90. Yang Qingxue covered her face with her hands. This guy had completely given up on saving face. Bailey Hongzhuang knew that Yang Lingfeng was just joking, so she ignored him. After walking through the Golden Gate, they entered a slightly longer passageway. She had already recovered from her shock and calmed herself down. She carefully observed her surroundings, guarding against any problems that might arise. Yang Lingfeng and Li Wuyo also stopped joking around. No one knew what would happen after they entered the Holy Realm. Even if their lives weren't in danger, if these guys really took a fancy to Hongzhuang, it would be very troublesome. After passing through the slightly longer passageway, the scene before them opened up. Bright sunlight shone down, and they saw a small path filled with birds and fragrant flowers. There was also a pavilion at the center of a lake. They were surrounded by pleasant greenery and colorful flowers dotted the landscape. There were many birds here and they chattered together. Even when they saw them, they didn't show the slightest hint of fear. "It's so beautiful here," Yang Qingxue exclaimed as she looked around. The scenery outside was also very beautiful, but it was as if all the best scenery in the Holy Realm had been gathered here. It was full of vitality and magnificent beauty. Most of the immortal realms in their fantasies were filled with celestial energy, but the scenery before them was full of vitality, like the world of fairies. It exuded a different kind of beauty. "I feel like when we go back and see the scenery in the realm of chaotic immortals again, I'm afraid it'll be boring." Yang Lingfeng sighed. After seeing such beautiful scenery, how could he feel anything when he saw ordinary scenery again? "We should be in the Holy Realm right now. I wonder if this test..." Bailey Hongzhuang was deep in thought. This beautiful scenery was exactly the same as when Fox had introduced it to them. However, they had directly arrived here after passing through the Golden Gate. Could it be that there was no test behind the gate at all? Could it be that they could enter directly? Just as she was thinking, a group of rabbits ran over and circled around Bailey Hongzhuang's feet. She was on guard against some kind of test, but when the rabbits came closer she realized that they were just a group of cute rabbits. She couldn't help but squat down. These rabbits were very good looking. Their white fur was spotless and their round and plump appearance looked very cute. At this moment they were circling Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, just because you're pretty, these rabbits treat you differently. Yang Lingfeng squatted down and wanted to reach out to touch the rabbit, but he found that the fellow was glaring at him in disdain. He didn't even manage to touch the rabbit's fur. The difference between people, can't you give me some comfort? Forget it, Yang Qingxue pulled Yang Lingfeng to his feet. The saint's world clearly treats Hongzhuang differently. Then what? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. A rabbit had already jumped directly into her arms. At this moment, it was intimately rubbing against her. It looked like it liked her very much. Yang Qingxue pondered, could it be that you have some sort of fate with the saint's world? What kind of fate could there be in a mystic realm that I've never been to before? I think it must be because Hongzhuang is pretty. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Yang Lingfeng. This guy was completely immersed in the shock of her beauty. Even now, he still hadn't recovered from the shock. These rabbits were all low-level creatures, but in this place, it was as if their intelligence had been developed. Their every move was filled with the brilliance of humanity. Further ahead was a large field of roses. A faint fragrance wafted through the air, and the dazzling red color was extremely dazzling. Such a scene was truly unforgettable. Squeak squeak. Chapter 6992. Fox? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. The foxes in front of her looked smaller than the foxes she was familiar with. She saw the foxes suddenly salute her, holding a rose in their hands. They actually started to dance. Not far away, the birds sang loudly, contrasting with the dance of the foxes, swaying their bodies. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly watched the dance in front of her. Foxes were indeed an extremely beautiful race. Even in their beast form, this dance exuded a kind of seductive beauty. The little rabbit at her feet was also immersed in this dance and couldn't help but sway in place, but it forgot its short legs. Instead of swaying, its whole body rolled on the ground. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. This little guy looked really interesting. After the dance, the foxes came forward and handed the roses in their hands to her one by one. Looking at the rose in her hand, the thorns on it had been trimmed, so it didn't prick her hand. Only then did the rabbit squeak and let her continue to move forward. Another 7-colored bridge appeared. This bridge was different from the one she saw when she was breaking through. It looked more like a rainbow. The 7 colors of light were clearly blooming, bright and colorful. Below, the 2 white clouds drifted away, making people feel like they were in a dream. Faintly, there seemed to be a figure above the bridge. It was just that the smoke was hazy, so she couldn't see clearly. Squeak squeak. The rabbit waved its 2 little claws, pointing forward. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly moved forward. She understood that the rabbit meant for her to go forward, but this was simply a rainbow in front of her. Could it really be possible to stand on it? It wasn't until she took her first step and didn't miss that she felt relieved. It's really incredible. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the rainbow under her feet. Since she started to cultivate, she had seen a lot of incredible things. With the improvement of her strength, many things that were previously unimaginable became reality. However, she never thought that she would one day stand on a rainbow. Step by step, she continued to move forward. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on the faint figure in front of her. The little rabbit had already stopped. Even if she couldn't see the face and could only see the figure, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile gradually widened. It's him. Even if she could only see a corner of his figure, she could be sure that it was him. As the distance got closer and closer, that handsome figure gradually became more and more clear. The slender figure, the cold face, standing on the rainbow's dreamy rainbow, it was simply a beautiful scenery that didn't belong to the human world. Wife. An elegant and charming curve bloomed on his lips, dispelling the coldness between his eyebrows, like the melting snow, and rippling with the warmth of the sun. Lord. He's as he. Chapter 6993. The man passionately plundered all the sweetness from her. Amidst the raging violence, there was a trace of protective gentleness. It was as if he wanted to express all his longing through this kiss. Bailey Hongzhuang was only slightly stunned for a moment. Then she wrapped her arms around the man's neck and responded to this kiss. She also missed him. She missed him very much. The man felt her response. His hands became even hotter. The warm and domineering embrace seemed to want to ruthlessly knead her into his bones. A day without seeing her felt like 3 years. He didn't know how many years he had waited here. Fortunately, he finally saw her. After a long while, when the woman's chest had almost dissipated, the man released her and hugged her slightly limp body. He slowly brought her to sit down on the bridge. Only then did Bailey Hongzhuang notice the beautiful scenery in front of her. Below them was a clear lake. It reflected the light of the rainbow. The entire lake seemed to be dyed with this bright color. It was as if it was a rainbow lake. Lotus flowers floated on top of it, adorning the bright and beautiful lake. She could even sway her feet. As the breeze blew, her clothes and the man's clothes were intimately intertwined. It was like a painting. When Yang Qinxue and Yang Linfeng finally saw the figure of Bailey Hongzhuang, they saw such a beautiful scene and were suddenly a little dumbfounded. Beichen's methods are really admirable. At this moment, Yang Linfeng could be said to be full of admiration for Beichen. No wonder this guy could make Hongzhuang so stubbornly loyal to him. Whether it was humans or beasts, Hongzhuang couldn't gain the slightest bit of favor. The real key was here. Thinking about it carefully, if it was someone with such a handsome, powerful and romantic husband, they definitely wouldn't fall in love with someone else. A trace of envy appeared in Yang Qinshua's eyes. She had never seen such an immortal couple before. Whether it was the deep affection between the two of them, Hongzhuang's yearning for Beichen over the past year, or Beichen's meticulous preparations, there was an indescribable beauty in all of this. Come to think of it, this should be the kind of love that everyone hoped to have. Yang Lingfeng also noticed the envious look on his sister's face and couldn't help but say, "It's a pity that brother Qingli didn't come with us this time. Otherwise he would have learned a lot." "What are you talking about?" Yang Qinxue glared at him. "The truth." Yang Lingfeng spread out his hands. "With your gentle temperaments, who knows when you'll be able to achieve results if you rely on your own development. If you can learn from Beichen, won't your speed be faster?" However, the scene in front of me was simply too beautiful. Not to mention Hongzhuang, even I was touched by it. It's a pity that it won't be easy to figure everything out once we're outside. He had never seen such a beautiful scene before. Perhaps only this place could have such a unique scenery. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang had also recovered from her initial excitement. Looking at the familiar face beside her, her heart was also incomparably at ease. "Beichen, have you been in the Holy Realm ever since you came in?" Beichen nodded. "That's right. Did you prepare everything just now? Do you like it, my wife?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "I like it." Chapter 69-94. Now I understand everything. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about everything that had happened before and understood everything. The Imperial Wind Horse Elephant's behavior was too strange. Although she had some guesses at that time, she couldn't be sure. Until now, she understood that everything was Beichen's idea. "Then how did you know that I would come today?" He had prepared everything for her. "My wife and I have always been telepathic. Didn't you also guess that I would be here?" Beichen asked back. Bailey Hongzhuang raised the corner of her eyes. Beichen was right. Perhaps this was the tacit understanding between them. "When I came here, I wanted to look for you. However, these fellows in the Holy World said that the door to the Holy World would only open once every 300 years. Other than that, the door to the Holy World wouldn't open normally. I thought of many ways, but these fellows wouldn't agree. Helpless, I could only wait for it to open. Fortunately, the time for the door to open is already very close." Beichen sighed in his heart. When he found out about everything, although he couldn't help but feel gloomy, he also felt a little lucky. At least it was the right time for the door to open. Otherwise, if there were still 100 or 200 years, that would be terrible. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded in agreement. When she found out about everything, she also felt lucky that the door only opened in a year. It only opened once every 300 years. Their luck was already very good. "How have you been this year outside?" Beichen asked with concern. "I've been living quite well outside." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and told him about how she got to know the fox and the others. Beichen listened patiently. He didn't find it annoying at all. It was as if he wanted to know what Hongzhuang did in the year that he wasn't around. He didn't want to miss out on anything. However, when he heard that Hongzhuang was actually doing needlework for a living, his brows unconsciously furrowed. When he saw her beaming with joy as she talked about all kinds of interesting things, as well as the silly and adorable looks of the foxes, his brows loosened a little. "What about you?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked after she finished talking about her experiences in the past year. "I'm very simple. I just happened to fall here. After that, I realized that this place is very big. It won't be easy to find you, so I took in a group of underlings. A group of lackeys? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Could the so-called lackeys be the imperial windhorse elephant and the gibbon? Di Beichen nodded. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh when she saw the man's nonchalant expression. She knew that Beichen wouldn't be in the same situation as Ling Feng. At this moment, Little Black popped his head out, full of resentment. Master, have you forgotten about me? Bailey Hongzhuang. Di Beichen pointed to the other side of the bridge. Xiaobai is under the bridge. You've forgotten about me, haven't you? Xiao Hei's face was full of resentment. It had been missing its master all this time. Who would have thought that its two masters would completely forget about it after it arrived? There's food over at Xiaobai's place. I'm leaving. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Hei had already disappeared. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up and said in surprise, You know Xiao Hei quite well. It's not hard to know. Chapter 69-95. I don't know. Bailey Hongzhuang silently mourned for Xiao Hei in her heart as she looked at the man's calm expression. She felt that Beichen had definitely said it casually to send Xiao Hei away. Hey, are you guys done chatting? We've been waiting for quite a while. Yang Lingfeng and Yang Qinxue had been waiting under the bridge the entire time. When they saw that it was about time, they called out. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the two figures under the bridge, and her beautiful face was slightly flushed. Beichen, let's go down. She was completely focused on Beichen, and for a moment she had completely forgotten about everyone else. If she hadn't heard Yang Lingfeng's voice, she didn't know when she would have remembered him. Di Beichen held her hand and led her to her feet before slowly walking down the bridge. When he saw the immortal couple walking over, Yang Lingfeng explained, I didn't mean to ruin your time, but it's getting late. I think some of the demonic beasts over there have already passed the test. He wasn't spouting nonsense. It didn't seem like much time had passed, but in reality, they had already been waiting below for 2 hours. Bailey Hongzhuang looked ahead when she heard that. Sure enough, some demonic beasts had already appeared in the holy realm in the distance, and among them was the silhouette of a fox. Yang Qinxue sized up Di Beichen, and there was a hint of surprise in her eyes. She said hesitantly, Beichen, I feel like your aura has improved quite a bit? Yang Lingfeng finally returned to his senses. After carefully sensing his aura, his eyes widened. That's right, this aura. You've broken through to the elementary celestial stage? Di Beichen nodded calmly. Yang Lingfeng couldn't help but open his mouth wide when he saw the man's casual expression. He wailed, the heavens are really unfair. I've been cultivating for so long, but I still can't break through to the Radiant Sun stage. How long has it been since you broke through to the Radiant Sun stage? You've broken through to the elementary celestial stage in the blink of an eye? Yang Qinxue was also envious. This was definitely the fastest person she had ever seen breaking through to the elementary celestial stage. 4 ordinary cultivators, breaking through to the elementary immortal stage was an insurmountable gap. He didn't know how much effort it would take to successfully break through, but to Beichen this difficult realm was just like an ordinary level. He could break through it by casually cultivating. How could it be as difficult as everyone said? It's alright, Di Beichen said calmly. When he first came out of the perception steel, he had already touched the barrier to breaking through. After coming to the Saints' world, he ate the fruits that these fellows gave him all day long. His strength increased extremely quickly, and before he knew it, he had broken through. However, Beichen's matter-of-fact manner provoked him even more. In the past, he relied on his age and strength to call himself Big Brother. Now he had to call Beichen Big Brother. Oh right, Beichen, the Imperial Windhorse Elephant said that only Hongzhuang could enter. Did you forget about me and my sister? Yang Lingfeng stared at Di Beichen for a long time before suddenly asking a question. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. She instinctively looked at Beichen. Actually, it wasn't impossible. According to her understanding of Beichen, he must have forgotten about this matter. However, he couldn't admit it at a time like this. Otherwise, with Yang Lingfeng's character, who knew how long he would nag about it, no. Di Beichen's expression was calm. I didn't see the white guy either. What should we do? Fox was anxious. Even now, they still didn't know what the golden door was for. Don't be too anxious. The white guy didn't go in by himself. The green guy and the others came in with him. Lion looked at Fox's anxious expression and couldn't help but say, I saw that the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant and Long-Armed Demon Ape were very attentive to the white guy. Wouldn't those two fellas fight for it for a while? It definitely won't be so fast. Chapter 6997. The saber-toothed tiger had been silent ever since it came out. Thinking about how it was kicked in by the long-armed demon ape, it felt ashamed. For the past 300 years, it had lived a decent life. This time, because of those annoying fellows, it had lost all its face. During the process of breaking through, it had been regretting. If it had known that it would be like this, it would have taken care of those fellows earlier. Then there wouldn't have been so many problems later. Until after it came in, it realized that it hadn't seen those three fellows. Suddenly its mood became better. Do you guys think that the golden door means the most difficult test? If those three can't come out, wouldn't that be interesting? The group of demonic beasts guessed. After all, these two doors meant different tests. The door in the middle was so special, the test must be extraordinary. With their strength, if they enter the highest level test, won't they lose their lives? The fierce cloud monkey sneered. The demonic beast's attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang made them feel a huge threat. If those three fellows were to perform well, then wouldn't those fellows south of the river completely surpass them this time? It's best if they die. The saber-toothed tiger squinted its eyes and kept muttering in its heart. Those fellows should have died long ago. At this moment the fox couldn't hold back anymore. It gathered its courage and directly asked the long-armed ape, where did that white fellow and the others go? Did you think that they were from the human race so you wanted to take their lives? I say, why are you so troublesome? The long-armed ape looked at the fox in disdain. From the beginning until now, this fellow had been very anxious. The Imperial Wind Horse Elephant gave the long-armed ape a look. They are sister-in-law's friends. You have to be more polite when you speak. If sister-in-law was unhappy because of this, then boss would be unhappy too. At that time the two of them would be the unlucky ones. You're right. The long-armed ape nodded. Its attitude was slightly better. Don't worry, she's fine. The fox didn't hear the conversation between the two. Originally, its heart was beating like a drum. It was indeed a little impulsive. After seeing the long-armed ape's attitude, it was a little stunned. Then can you tell me where they went? The fox asked tentatively. Don't worry, she's from the human race. That means she's our boss's wife. Do you think we'll treat her badly? The long-armed ape said straightforwardly, she's definitely with our boss now. As soon as it said that, the fox and the others were all dumbfounded. What? Holy World's boss's wife? How is that possible? Bai has never been in the Holy World. She's probably not even 300 years old. How can she be the boss's wife? Chapter 6998. The Leader of the Holy World. Thinking of this, the fox's aura subconsciously weakened. It couldn't even win against these two fellas, let alone the leader of the Holy World. Fox, I think we shouldn't fight. We can't beat the leader of the Holy World. The lion looked at the fox. If the other party casually attacked them, they would be smashed into meat paste. Actually, the white guy's marriage is pretty good. As the saying goes, it's better to tear down a temple than a marriage. If we try to break up a couple, we'll be struck by lightning. The rock said seriously. Fox, lion, you're even more shameless than me. This news was no doubt a bolt from the blue for the saber-toothed tiger. He was still hoping that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would be taught a lesson. Now she was the woman of the leader of the Holy World. What was there to fight? Once this became a reality, not to mention the position of leader, it was afraid that it wouldn't even have a place to stay. Seniors, there must be a problem somewhere. The saber-toothed tiger hurriedly stood out. He couldn't let this happen. Otherwise he would be completely finished. Not to mention that she's not even a human. Even if she is, she can't be the wife of the leader of the Holy World. The fierce cloud monkey also stood out. That's right. They must be imposters. They haven't even come to the Holy World before. How can they have such identities? When the long-armed demon ape and the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant saw how certain the saber-toothed tiger and the others were, their resolute hearts began to waver. To be honest, they really couldn't recognize her. If you don't believe me, you can ask them. The white guy doesn't even know the leader of the Holy World. The saber-toothed tiger pointed at the fox and the others. Whether or not she was a human wasn't clear, but everyone knew this. The fox and the others' hearts thumped. Their faces were pale, but they forced themselves to remain calm. It's over, impersonating the wife of the holy world's leader. This was a death sentence. If they knew that entering the golden door meant such an identity, they wouldn't have let the white guy in. But no matter how much they regretted it now, it was too late. They absolutely could not admit all of this now. Although, it would be exposed soon, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have let the white guy and the others come. The fox had a bad feeling in its heart. They had only come here to fight for a chance to get the Holy Spirit fruit. Who would have thought that they would end up causing so much trouble? Most importantly, this was a disaster that they could not handle. Is what the saber-toothed tiger said true? The long-armed demon ape asked. If he really admitted his mistake, then he and the imperial windhorse elephant would be punished. Fox subconsciously looked at Lion and Rock, only to find that these two guys had no idea either. They looked like they were resigned to their fate. He could only bite the bullet and say, "It's not true." What a stubborn duck. The saber-toothed tiger sneered. After noticing the change in the expressions of Fox and the others, its heart was set. No matter how much they tried to deny it, this was a fact that could not be changed. You guys don't have to fight. When our boss arrives, everything will be clear. The imperial windhorse elephant said unhappily. Chapter 69-99. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, she found that the atmosphere was a little strange. The saber-toothed tiger was looking at her with a smug expression, as if it had caught hold of something that could be used against her. On the other hand, the fox and the others were worried. When they saw her appear, they were very happy. On the other hand, they couldn't wait for her to leave immediately. They kept giving her looks but couldn't understand what it was trying to do. Why have you all come back? The imperial windhorse elephant looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. It knew that its boss had prepared everything. Logically speaking, if this person in front of them was really their boss sister-in-law, then she should be with their boss right now. Now that their boss hadn't appeared and it was them who had come back, could it be that there really was a mistake? Before Bailey Hongzhuang could finish her sentence, the saber-toothed tiger had already cut her off. You all really have guts. You actually dare to pretend to be the wife of the holy world's boss. Why don't you take a look at yourself? Is this something that you can pretend to be? When Yang Lingfeng and Yang Qingxue heard this, their expressions became very interesting. This fellow was really looking for his own death. If you all kneel down now and admit your mistakes, perhaps you can still live. Otherwise, you will definitely die today. When the other demonic beasts saw this, they all fell silent. The demonic beasts to the north of the river were naturally very happy to see this scene. The demonic beasts to the south of the river also didn't dare to say a word. If they were to get involved in this matter, they would all suffer together. What nonsense are you talking about? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. It had only been a short while. What had happened? Stop putting on an act. The saber-toothed tiger came in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and said to the long-armed devil ape, "Senior, why don't I take care of this impostor for you first so that you won't dirty your hands?" As his voice fell, the saber-toothed tiger's claw slammed down towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Stop. When the fox and the others saw this scene, they became anxious and quickly rushed forward. Who would have thought that this fellow would attack the moment he opened his mouth? With this white fellow's cultivation, he wasn't a match for it. However, before Fox and the others arrived, a hand had already grabbed the saber-toothed tiger's claw. A frightening coldness came from the side, and the warm world seemed to be covered in ice and snow in an instant. A terrifying murderous aura mixed with the coldness of 10,000-year-old ice instantly locked onto the saber-toothed tiger. The saber-toothed tiger stared blankly at the man in front of it who was as handsome as a god. The terrifying aura emitted from his body was like that of an Azura from hell, extremely terrifying. Chapter 7000. Boss. The saber-toothed tiger looked at the man in front of it in astonishment. Boss? This guy in front of it was the boss of the holy world? You must be joking. For a moment, the saber-toothed tiger thought it was dreaming. The fox and the others' mouths could already fit an egg. This scene changed too quickly for them to accept. But this seemed to be a good thing? Gotcha. The crisp sound of bones breaking rang out, followed by the saber-toothed tiger's scream. Di Beichen's face was calm, but his eyes were filled with murderous intent. This guy actually wanted to take Hongzhuang's life? Yang Lingfeng looked at the man beside him who was emitting a bone-chilling aura. There was only one word in his mind: protective. Di Baichen's love for Hong Zhuang was well known. The saber-toothed tiger actually dared to attack Hong Zhuang in front of him. Wasn't this courting death? He had always hated the saber-toothed tiger, but at this moment he couldn't help but mourn for this guy. Offending the boss of the holy world, wasn't that courting death? Shut up. The long-armed ape saw the saber-toothed tiger wailing and shouted coldly. This guy had been trying to mislead them. Now that they saw their boss like this, how could they still not understand that this person in front of them was their sister-in-law? From the time their boss appeared until now, they had never seen him so angry. When they thought about how they didn't protect their sister-in-law, cold sweat kept dripping down. And the main culprit behind all of this was this guy. The saber-toothed tiger subconsciously closed its mouth, not daring to make another sound. Looks like this guy often caused trouble for you? Di Baichen turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. His domineering gaze was filled with concern. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, the corner of her lips curled up. It's inevitable that there would be a few troublemakers. She always felt that the saber-toothed tiger was a problem, but at this moment, all of this didn't seem important. It's settled? The indifferent voice was like a judge, directly deciding the life and death of the saber-toothed tiger. Yes. The long-armed ape and imperial windhorse elephant immediately understood and quickly summoned the other demonic beasts to drag the saber-toothed tiger away. Boss, you're mistaken. This woman is definitely not your wife. The saber-toothed tiger realized the fate that awaited it. At this moment it was completely anxious. Even though it was being dragged, it still screamed crazily. The other monsters looked at one another as well. Although the boss of the Saints' world seemed to be of the same race as Bailey Hongzhuang, that did not mean that Bailey Hongzhuang was his wife. Perhaps he only helped Bailey Hongzhuang because they were of the same race. Just as the group of demonic beasts were guessing, they saw Di Baichen embrace Bailey Hongzhuang's slender waist with one hand, and his thin lips covered those cherry lips with endless sweetness. It was like a dragonfly skimming the water. Immediately after, the group of demonic beasts heard Di Baichen's magnetic voice. She's my wife. How could I mistake her for someone else? It was true. Di Baichen's words undoubtedly confirmed Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. All the demonic beasts' faces changed. They couldn't understand what had happened. Why was Bailey Hongzhuang so different after coming to the Saints' world? They couldn't understand what had happened, and she had already become the wife of the Saints' world's big boss. Chapter 7001. Yang Lingfeng covered his eyes. He knew it would be like this. It wasn't enough for them to show off their love in front of them. Now they were showing off their love in front of so many beasts. The fox covered its chest. What should I do? My heart seems to be hurt. The rock patted the fox with its wings and comforted. Don't worry. She's the wife of a big boss. It's good enough that we can bask in her glory. But the white guy was the one I had my eyes on. The lion said dejectedly, the white guy never promised you. The fox. Whose side are you on? Other than this guy, who else is there? Di Baichen didn't let go of Bailey Hongzhuang's slender waist. Instead, he lowered his head and asked softly. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. Then she understood that Baichen wanted to avenge her and get rid of all the guys who were targeting them. At this moment, Yang Lingfeng volunteered. Baichen and that monkey. It's that guy who has been working with the saber-toothed tiger to target us. The direction he pointed at was where the fierce cloud monkey was. The fierce cloud monkey felt that something was wrong when he saw the saber-toothed tiger being dragged away. He had been quietly hiding in the crowd, hoping that these guys wouldn't notice him. However, he didn't expect to be pointed out by Yang Lingfeng. His heart suddenly thumped and he knew that something was wrong. After Yang Lingfeng pointed out this guy, he gave Yang Qingxue a look. Sister, when you have someone to rely on, you have to get rid of these annoying guys. Brother, you're getting more and more despicable. Yang Qingxue sighed. Then a proud smile appeared on her face. But I like it. Ha ha. Yang Lingfeng laughed proudly. This guy would be a disaster sooner or later. Although they didn't need to worry about this guy causing any trouble in the holy world, they couldn't guarantee that this guy would always hold a grudge. When the time came, whether it was playing tricks on them or targeting the fox and the rest, it was something that they didn't want to see. Moreover, he could feel that this fellow was even more sinister than the saber-toothed tiger. The long-armed ape subconsciously looked at Di Baichen. Seeing the murderous look in his boss's eyes, he immediately understood. He quickly waved his hand to call the other monsters. Take this guy away too. The fierce cloud monkey was caught by the sacred world's demonic beasts. It didn't even have a chance to escape. After knowing that he was doomed, the fierce cloud monkey's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness. He immediately shouted, "They are all lying to you. This guy was clearly with the fox before. All of us clearly heard that the fox had threatened to marry her. Don't be fooled." Hua. Seeing that the fierce cloud monkey actually said such words, the demonic beast's expressions became extremely strange. They had heard something like that before, but they didn't dare to say it in front of the leader of the saints' world. Yang Lingfeng and Yang Qingshua's expressions changed slightly. They looked like they were waiting to watch a good show. Hong Zhuang was undoubtedly Bei Chen's favorite. Not to mention that he wanted to marry her, he would not allow anyone to get close to her, let alone a man. Even if it was a male, he would not allow it. Recently, the fox had indeed said that he wanted to marry Hong Zhuang a few times. They wondered how Bei Chen would react. Chapter 7002. After Bei Chen heard this, his eyes narrowed slightly, and his gaze fell on the fox not far away. The fox felt guilty at first, but then it thought that it couldn't implicate the white guy. Just as it was about to step forward, Bei Chen's voice sounded, "My wife has been married to me for many years, but we only separated a year ago. What nonsense are you talking about?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at the man beside her. Although she had told him about her interactions with the fox and the rest, she had never mentioned this point. But looking at the man's expression, he didn't seem angry. After all these years, the trust between them was already unbreakable. Moreover, Bei Chen wouldn't treat this kind of thing seriously. The two who were waiting to watch a good show were dumbfounded when they saw Bei Chen resolve this matter so casually. They thought that Bei Chen would be furious, but they didn't expect that to be the case. A year ago? The fox was surprised. The white guy did appear more than a year ago. If they connected all these together, wouldn't it be, so we've known the wife of a big shot in the holy world for so long? The rock was dumbfounded. Then we've been thinking about how to build a good relationship with the demonic beasts in the holy world. We just need to build a good relationship with the white guy. Oh my god. The clothes I'm wearing were made by the wife of the holy world. No, I have to take these clothes back and worship them. The demonic beasts came back to their senses. This news wasn't just shocking, it was horrifying. But after thinking about it, they felt very happy. They were really lucky. The demonic beasts north of the river were also very envious. No wonder these clothes looked so unusual. So this was the crux of the problem. Thinking about how they were on the opposite side, they felt a little panicked. "Boss, these demonic beasts all passed the test. Do you know?" The imperial wind horse elephant looked at its boss tentatively, hoping that its boss didn't take what happened to heart. Otherwise, the two of them would be in trouble. "Just do what you need to do," Bei Chen said faintly and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to the back. Although he had recruited a group of underlings in the saints' world, he did not plan on interfering with many matters here. After so many years, a set of rules had already been established between the sacred world and the demonic beasts of the outside world. All they needed to do was follow the rules and continue. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Bei Chen all the way forward. Yang Lingfeng and Li Yunhong also followed. "Let's go. I'll take you to your accommodations first." Holding Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, Bei Chen was also in a good mood. He felt that his heart, which had been empty for the past year, was finally filled. He didn't care about anything related to demonic beasts. The only thing he wanted to do now was to be with Hong Zhuang. After passing through the bamboo forest and the flower field, Bailey Hongzhuang saw a palace in the distance. This palace couldn't be considered luxurious or grand, but it had an unprecedented freshness. The beautiful scenery in the surroundings set off this palace, making it seem like a secret realm in the forest. "Wow, Bei Chen, you'll be staying here for this period of time? Isn't this treatment a little too good?" Chapter 7003. Bei Chen smiled faintly. "You're living here now too? Haha, with you around, we're naturally living a good life." Yang Lingfeng smiled. Other than the days when they were captured by the saber-toothed tiger, the days with Hong Zhuang were very comfortable. Now that they were in the holy world with Bei Chen here, their days were naturally even better. "I think it was the right choice to come to the secret realm with you this time. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a good opportunity." Yang Qinshua's eyes were filled with excitement. The improvement in cultivation in this 1 year would take at least 10 years in the outside world. If they didn't come, they could only watch blankly as Di Beichen broke through to the elementary immortal stage. Now, even if they hadn't broken through, it was only a matter of time. Other than this, you can choose any of the other rooms. Di Beichen pointed to the main hall and said, "Eh." Yang Lingfeng agreed happily. Along the way he had already noticed a few rooms. The decorations here were very good. "Go in and rest, we won't disturb you and your wife." Yang Lingfeng waved his hand. He had been living in the cave for this period of time and missed this warm and soft bed very much. Yesterday's training had already exhausted him. Now what he wanted to do most was to take a bath and have a good sleep. That would be perfect. However, I have to remind you that after Fox and the others are done with their business, they might come to Hongzhuang. After all, today's matter is really difficult for them to understand. They will definitely want to understand. So, Yang Lingfeng winked at Di Beichen. Everything was understood without words. Di Beichen glanced at Yang Lingfeng indifferently, then pulled Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and walked into the bedroom. Beichen. As soon as they entered the room, Bailey Hongzhuang was already pressed against the wall by Di Beichen. A familiar aura surrounded her and a hot chest imprisoned her. The man's eyes narrowed slightly, emitting a dangerous and seductive aura. "Fox said he wants to marry you?" His hoarse voice was low and enchanting. His breath drifted to her ears and neck like a secret message, making her feel numb and confused. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the handsome face in front of her and shifted her gaze guiltily. "It was just saying? Just saying?" A low chuckle escaped from the man's throat. His gaze became deeper and deeper as it landed on the face of the woman in his arms, the tip of her nose and her lips. Then he lowered his head and kissed the lips that he yearned for day and night. "You're not obedient?" Ugh, a domineering aura engulfed her, absorbing all of her sweetness. That pair of large hands also caressed her body, quietly sliding into her clothes. The world spun and the man had already landed on the warm and soft bed with her in his arms. "Beichen," the woman's delirious voice undoubtedly intensified the man's desire. His hot breath sprayed on every part of her skin. The room was filled with romance. The next day the warm sunlight spilled into the room through the window. The warm feeling awakened Bailey Hongzhuang from her deep sleep. She slowly opened her eyes and saw the man beside her with his back to the light. He was supporting his head with one hand and looking at her with a smile. The man's eyes were filled with stars and looked even more dazzling than the sunlight. "You're awake." Chapter 7004. Di Beichen opened his arms and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into his embrace. Leaning against the man's chest, Bailey Hongzhuang squinted her eyes like a cat and a bright smile blossomed on her face. Only when she was completely awake did she remember something. "Didn't the fox and the others come looking for us yesterday? Do you think they can come here?" Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. He already knew what Yang Lingfeng's reminder meant. However, this palace was not a place that just anyone could enter. Even if everyone knew that the fox and Hongzhuang had a good relationship, without his permission, no demon beast could enter. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang came back to her senses. From yesterday until now, not to mention coming to find them, there wasn't even a sound from them. "Then let's go see the fox and the others in a bit." "You care about it a lot?" Di Beichen asked slowly. "Not it, it's them," Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized. She always thought that Di Beichen wouldn't be unhappy about this kind of thing, but after being severely punished yesterday, she finally understood how domineering this man could be. If she didn't explain it clearly, her situation today would probably be, "In this past year they've been taking care of me. I'm the one who's been deceiving them, so I feel guilty." Her clear black and white eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. In this period of time she had been thinking about how the fox and the others would react if they knew everything. She also hoped that they wouldn't be angry with her. Now that she knew about Di Beichen's status in the holy world, it was a huge comfort to her. She knew that the fox and the others' biggest wish was to stay in the holy world. If she could help them achieve this wish, it would undoubtedly be for the best. Di Beichen's lips curved into a faint smile. "I understand." When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked out of the room, they found that Yang Lingfeng and Yang Qinshui were already awake. "Morning? Morning." Yang Lingfeng leaned over sneakily. "It's already late in the morning. I thought you guys weren't going to get up today." Hearing the meaning behind Yang Lingfeng's words, Bailey Hongzhuang blushed. This guy was becoming more and more unscrupulous with his words. Looks like the trials of the saints' world aren't enough for you. It just so happens that there are some more difficult trials here. Why don't I take you to try them out? Di Beichen said casually. Yang Lingfeng's expression changed. Looking at Beichen's fluttering appearance, he felt as if there was a needle hidden in cotton. Yesterday's test had almost taken away half of his life. As for the test that Beichen mentioned, he was afraid that it would make him wish he was dead. As expected, the consequences of offending Beichen were even more terrifying. I didn't say anything. Yang Lingfeng looked at the weather outside. Today's weather is really good. Do you want to go out for a walk? Bailey Hongzhuang, Yang Qingxue. She really wanted to break off the sibling relationship with this guy. The imperial wind horse elephant and long-armed demon ape had been waiting outside. When they noticed that Di Beichen had already gotten up, they ran in. Boss, sister-in-law. After the two fellows arrived, they respectfully saluted before secretly sizing each other up. What's the matter? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.